All right, so I have been working on setting up this computer for about a month now. And as of essentially right now, I think it is basically all set up. Most of this time has just been spent reinstalling all of my plugins, which, I had quite a few plugins installed on my Ubuntu ThinkPad, but for this, my desktop, I wanted to reinstall like everything that I had on my desktop previously. So this is the desktop that until a month ago was still running Windows 10 offline since mid-October, just because I needed it for finishing imataninflectionpoint.jpeg. Because for one thing, it had some plugins, some of the very few plugins that I have not had any success using in Linux. And additionally, because it was in Ableton, which you can get working in Linux. I do need to make a video about that at some point. But it running in Windows natively was already struggling to survive running that project. So using it through Wine in Linux to wrap up that project did not seem advisable. And the project took quite a bit longer than I had expected. So, it took a while before I was able to get this switched over to Linux. But it is now running Debian with KDE Plasma as the desktop environment, which I really like KDE Plasma. And it's running great. Getting the NVIDIA driver took a while to figure out at the start. I had to use a bit of a different technique than what is advised, but it seems to be working fine now, so that's good. But I think the setup for this has gone smoother than Ubuntu for me. Obviously when I was first setting up audio stuff in Ubuntu, I was doing it for the first time, so I had to learn all of it as I was doing it. But I think I still ran into, and even still have on it, more like little annoying things, not anything like super critical stuff I'm able to work around fine, but just little annoying things I wish this worked a little better or whatever like that. But in Debian, almost everything has just been like working great. Like even I can show you my audio setup currently. So like in Ubuntu, sorry, I've been sick for like 3 weeks, so I still kind of sound sick. I'm mostly better though. So like in Ubuntu, for recording stuff through OBS, I've had to kind of do some hacky things to get it all working how I need. It hasn't been as ideal as I'd like. I could probably get it there, but it's just been a little more fiddly. But in Debian, I just installed OBS to record this video, and audio setup is just like working completely fine. I have my mono mic that's going into one pulse audio jack source in OBS, and then I have Reaper, which has a stereo output going into another jack source into OBS, and it just works fine. You can hear stereo. Works totally fine. And even you can see my audio interface. No drivers needed. The driver manager, whatever you would call it in Windows, let you do some controls and stuff through it, But I'm pretty sure you can just still do all of those controls from the hardware itself, so that's not really a problem. And it just worked. I didn't have to install anything. It just works. And now one kind of odd thing that I'm not really sure why it is like if I don't have QJack control running, or like, you know, the Jack server running or whatever, audio seems to just like not work at all. I think it did before I got all this stuff set up, but now, like, if I don't have QJack control running, I can open up a YouTube video and it just like won't play. But as long as I have it running, which I want to have it running because that's like how I have all of my audio, my, you know, low latency real-time audio stuff set up. As long as it's up, it works fine. I can, you know, be doing stuff in Reaper, and I can have something up playing in a browser at the same time. It's just worked completely fine. So the thing that I have spent the longest time doing is installing plugins, because you can see I just exported this. I have 2,964 plugins installed. Now, this number is kind of misleading because you get multiple versions. Like here you have I think the 32-bit and 64-bit versions of Air Windows plugins installed. And then, you know, for some things you have like, you know, here's the VST3 and the VST2 or whatever plugin installed. So there's some duplicates. I would say the number's probably closer to like 15 or 1600. That's still a lot of plugins. And quite a few of them are through Yawbridge. And if I check this here, yeah, 740 plugins through Yawbridge. And I would say I have run into maybe, I would say less than 20 plugins that I just haven't been able to get working in Yawbridge. The majority of these are things that require some sort of license manager software to be running in the background. Like, very unfortunately, the Universal Audio plugins, which I really like the Universal Audio plugins. I have, I don't know, maybe 5 of them or something like that. Some like compressor, I have the tube compressor, I have a channel strip thing that I really like an amp simulator thing. Their plugins are great, but I can't even get the license management software thing running to install them at all. It's possible that it is possible to do, but I have not had any luck with it, which is unfortunate. But, you know, this is like, in the grand scheme of things, like 5 plugins. I'm trying to think what other... There have just been some like random things. Like, I think you can usually, if you're sort of making the switch and reinstalling a bunch of Windows plugins, and you have like, you know, 10 plugins from the same developer, you can usually just install one, test it out, and if that one works, they're probably all gonna work. I think it's probably just because like a plugin developer has the same libraries and, you know, I don't know, tools, whatever. I don't know what really goes into developing a plugin, but yeah, they're working with a lot of the same tools to develop their plugins, so they have like similar requirements. So generally, if one works, they're probably all gonna work. Most of them are gonna work. But yeah, you will just occasionally. Yeah, again, it's like I'd say less than 20 plugins that just haven't worked flat out. I had some difficulty with the SoundToys plugins, which I'm pretty sure they just worked fine in Ubuntu. then in NixOS, I had no luck with them. In Debian, like the first time I installed them, they worked. But then I think like Bitwig came along and rescanned my plugins and messed it up somehow. And then they wouldn't work even after reinstalling them. But I eventually found that using the 32-bit versions, 32-bit VST 1 or 2 or whatever versions did work. So I was happy to get those working. Another group of plugins that I had some difficulty with that I did manage to get working were the Ohm Force plugins. Which, if you don't know about them, I would highly... Excuse me, why is this not... Okay. I would highly recommend them, because they have all their old plugins for free on their website. They're older plugins. But they're pretty sick. I really love the style of them. And I think the issue I ran into was when installing them failed somehow. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they wouldn't install. But I was digging through, like drives I had copied from Windows before getting this set up, and I found the VST files, or .dll files for these plugins. And so I just tried copying them into my Yawbridge plugins folder, and they work fine. There's one, I think it's Symptom, didn't work for whatever reason, but all of the other ones have worked. And so I was very happy that I was able to get those going. But yeah, you can see here, so this downloads folder, I'm going to sort of archive this so I have it available for whatever future Linux plugin installations I want to do. But I was kind of going through, I have all these installers for plugins that I've been storing these for a while since being on Windows, just for I got all these plugins installed on my desktop and I want to copy them over to a laptop. So these are all Windows versions of plugins. So for some of them, I would just install whatever version I had. Sometimes I would find that the plugins weren't available anymore, or you need an account to download it, which I might have the account to have gotten it in the first place, but it's not even worth it for me to try to find the account or make a new one. So I just installed the version I had. But for a lot of them, I would at least look them up. And I would say for maybe a quarter of them, the developers would actually have a Linux native version, which is nice to see. I don't know if it's newer or if they always had Linux versions. I just never really paid it any mind. But it has been nice to see how many plugin developers do put out Linux native versions of plugins. And I hope that continues and increases over time. But yeah, for a long time now, I've just been going through this list and reinstalling all these plugins, which is, resulted in me installing a lot more plugins than I had installed, because I would look up actually no, I think I had all those plugins installed. Distort, which Distort, as you're right, is one of my favorite chorus plugins. I really love As You're Right. We'll pop that up. Great chorus plugin, has random modulation, ton of voices, and you can do some pretty cool things with very, very low and very high delay. randomly modulating the delay. I don't know, it's just a really good chorus plugin. But I guess that was the only Distork plugin that I had installed. So when I went to just look it up, see if they had a Linux version, discovered, oh, they have a bunch of other free plugins as well. So I would install all those, which obviously ballooned the amount of time that this took to set up, but resulted in me getting a bunch more cool plugins that I haven't used before. So yeah, going through these lists, these are sort of like some of my core things that are just pretty easily installed. And then these are, I don't know, more specific plugins. And then I also have this no, not that one. I have this folder that has a bunch of other stuff as well. So it took quite a long time to go through all this, but as of literally right now, I actually tried recording this video once before, and while I was recording it, realized that I had missed one, because I had missed, where is it? Maybe Szechuan Saturator. I had missed the Szechuan Saturator. And this is actually one that I was not able to get Szechuan Saturator running in Ubuntu. I think it would just like always crash Reaper or something like that. But now it just works fine on Debian. It's a very good saturator if you haven't. Let me turn this down a little bit because it's kind of loud. I like having this modulation in the saturator. Great saturator, highly recommended, and it's free. So yeah, I was very happy to find that worked. I also oddly found that there were a few plugins that hadn't worked for me in Windows. Windows plugins that hadn't worked for me in Windows that now just work fine in Linux. That's kind of neat to discover. Yeah, so installing plugins took a long time, but I am all set at this point, and I am very happy to have gotten past that. For other software, I've gotten, sort of my like core stuff installed. I have Reaper and Bitwig. I haven't installed Ableton on this yet, which I probably will do. I do need to make a video about that at some point. Probably once I get to the point of installing Ableton on here, I'll make a video showing how to do it. There are a few things that I haven't reinstalled because I'm kind of waiting on a native Linux version. So specifically, Wise and Tixel. So for Wise, if you go to the download page, see, unfortunately Linux is not supported at this current time. Check again soon, which it could just be a nice way of brushing off the Linux users, but saying check again soon and even just having a message to address someone trying to download it on Linux implies to me that they have it in mind, that they might be working on it to some degree. And then, yeah, the other thing is Tixel, or Tool. It was previously called Tool 3, but once they got to version 4, they changed it to Tixel, which I think I'm not sure if I've made a video about it or not, or if I've just mentioned it, but I don't have a ton of experience with it, but what I have has like blown my mind for how unbelievably awesome it is. And it is mind-blowing that this software is free because it is so good. It's an open source project, which to me makes it feel a little surprising that there isn't a Linux version, because I think generally open source projects are more likely to have Linux versions. So they only have a Windows version and source code. Maybe it's possible to compile it on Linux, but I haven't. I imagine they would probably have a Linux version released if that was the case. But they do, in their user guide, have a guide for how to install it with Wine, which I could do, but for something like this where it's going to be one of the more visually demanding programs that I run on here, I kind of want to have a native Linux version. And I'm not sure if it's on this page or if it's just from something else I've seen, but I think it is something that they have in mind and are intending to put out at some point. So yeah, I'm just kind of waiting for a native Linux version for that. But both Tixel and Wise are not like things that I need right now, so I'm fine just waiting for a bit on them. I will just use fmod in the meantime, which fmod very, very nicely does have a native Linux version, and Godot, of course, has a native Linux version. And I was actually just today, I spent a little too long on this, but Alessandro Fama, whose name I'm probably mispronouncing, they had developed a Wise for Godot integration and a fmod for Godot integration. And they had been maintaining those for a while. You can see they do have, fmod and Godot tutorials still up on their website. But they now have a job for Audiokinetic. And understandably, when they started working at Audiokinetic, their fmod for Godot integration just sort of quietly vanished from their GitHub, which I get it, but I do think it's very unfortunate because I think it was like the best, most stable integration available. But I did luckily have a copy of the files required for it still on my computer. So I, a while ago, set up just this default project. Empty Godot project, empty fmod project, other than like 2 events just to test it out, make sure it's working, and got that set up with the integration. So anytime that I want to have a Godot project with an fmod integration, I can just copy this file and work from there. And so I had done all that on Windows, and today, because I want to do just like a really small, quick project using fmod and Godot, because one, it's been a little while since I've done any like game dev or audio middleware work. It's been quite a long time since I've done that. I wanted to brush up on it, refamiliarize myself with it, and also I actually don't have really any experience with this integration. So, I wanted to actually like learn how to use it, which I am appreciative of the fact that they still have their tutorials up on here. But you can see here's the downloading the integration. If you try going here, you just get 404. It's very sad, but I get it. given that, this is a fairly out of date integration, I have to use older versions of Godot and Fmod. Not like that old. The version of Fmod is 2.02.17, and the version of Godot is 4.1.1. So a bit out of date, but not terrible. And so yeah, I wanted to do just a quick little game, just a little space shooter kind of thing. I can actually show you the thing that I'm sort of inspired by with it. I'm using some of Kenny's assets for it. If you don't know of Kenny, I would highly recommend looking up his website, because he has just a ton of free assets, which is awesome. Just like an incredible asset to the game developer community. He just puts out all these free assets. So I just grabbed some of those to make this game. But anyway, I had gotten the integration set up in Windows, and it worked there, and I wanted to make sure that it was all working fine in Linux as well. So if I open up the project, you can see in my assets folder, there's the sound banks. You can't see the banks, but they're in there. And I have the Fmod button up here. If I click this, well, nothing shows up. I can refresh the project. Nothing's showing up. So I spent like an hour trying everything I could think of to try to get, because it just seemed like Godot wasn't seeing the banks, even though, like, if I go to the project settings, go down to Fmod, it's looking in the right path for them. So why isn't it seeing anything? And then I eventually realized that, oh, I can just expand this, and there they are. There are my events. There are my banks. They work. I don't know that. Yeah, you can't hear that, but they do work. So yeah, I'm just happy that the integration is still working in Linux. So I'm gonna work on that some tonight and tomorrow, I think. So another thing, I'd actually say, like, one of the last things that I'm still working on with this is working out my drives, because, well, part of the reason for this, the reason for the switch was to get away from Windows, especially Windows 11. But one of the major benefits of it was going to be having a simplified backup system. So I just have this script. Very simple script. That rsyncs each of my drives into whatever is in the backup mount point, which is, I have this hard drive rack kind of thing that can take 2 internal hard drives, and I have 2 8 terabyte hard drives for that. So what I can do is put one of the 8 terabyte drives into the slot, run this script, it will rsync everything onto it, and then I can take that out, leave it at my family's house or whatever, put the other drive in, rsync everything to that. So I have a local backup and an off-site backup in case of emergency or whatever. And because I'm rsyncing it, it's not that it has to copy everything every time. It's going to look at what's already there and only copy the things that have changed. So it takes quite a while to run the first time, but after that, it shouldn't take very long to update each backup drive. So yeah, it's been a long time coming that I've needed to have a good backup system. And even though this is a very simple one, I think it will meet my needs well. But the thing that I discovered, I did already get one of the backup drives set up, but the thing that I discovered was that apparently NTFS drives do not work well with Linux. And obviously because a bunch of these drives were set up while I was using Windows, they were using NTFS. So I didn't know about this until fairly recently, but I'm glad that I did learn about it. Because yeah, apparently it can cause issues. So what I need to do is to get, for each of my NTFS drives, which I think I had 3. I had the sample libraries drive. I had the archive drive, which is the most important one for me, because that has all my sound effects and projects and everything on it. And I had the consolidated drive, which is basically something that had consolidated a bunch of smaller drives onto it. And all of those are NTFS. Now, the archive drive I already have switched over. So this is now on an ext4 drive. It's a solid state drive now, so it should be faster for, you know, loading big audio files and that kind of thing. Let's see. Yeah, I still need to do something with the sample libraries. I think I should be able to just wipe the drive they were on and move those back onto it at this point, I think. I was also setting up the game drive. So I wanted to have the game drive as well as like other games that I have on here all on that drive. And so I'm still, I think it's probably about done at this point. But I ran into a really weird issue with it where almost everything would copy over just fine, but there were like maybe 8 files that it would fail on. And I've now tried this on Debian, Ubuntu, and Windows, and none of them have been able to do it, to copy these files over correctly. And I do not know why. They'll get to, like, so for one of them, this, I renamed it, but this music core file, which was basically the fmod project that my friend Soul Crush was working on for the soundtrack in this game jam. They just, you know, zipped together to send to me. This one, it will get to like 60 or 70% and then just stop. It waits there for a while and just errors out and says, no, I wasn't able to copy it. Weirdly, on Windows, it's able to get further. It's able to get to like 90%, but then it just hits the same thing. No idea. It just seems like the files are corrupted in some way. Most of the other ones were just, you know, a few of these like ambient sound effects. And the way I was able to kind of recover them was to load them into Reaper, which weirdly Reaper, it's able to analyze the file and it analyzes it correctly. It is able to see the audio as it should. But it wouldn't let me re-export them. I figured I could just like basically load them into memory in Reaper and then re-export them there. Would not do it. What I had to do was to play through all of them resampling them onto a second track, and then delete the previous track and export them from the resampled track. And that kind of worked, but they had all these weird little gaps in them, which I'm guessing is just like something got corrupted on the file and left these like chunks of missing data in the middle of these files, and that's why it wasn't working or something like that. I don't know, but thankfully it wasn't too many files, and you know, these are all like older projects, so it's not really the end of the world if something goes missing. I think there was one other file that it wouldn't work with. I think it was something in I think it was something in the Alien isolation redesign that it wouldn't work with. But you know, again, the Alien isolation redesign is long since done, so I'm not terribly concerned about it. But yeah, that was just a weird thing I ran into. So yeah, I'm still setting up the drives how I need, but in the end, they should be consolidated well, so I free up a few USB slots, which will be good, because they have basically been used up on my computer for a long time. Yeah, I should have a good backup system in place and all that, so that will be very nice. That's really the only thing I have left to do on here. And I think that might be about it. I've just been really, really happy with how well this new system has worked. There've been, just a variety of things that have just worked better than in Ubuntu. Just things kind of work together more smoothly for whatever reason. So I've been very happy about that. There have been like a couple weird little things, like if I power off the computer like this, it will sometimes, but not always, look like it's powered off. The light on the power button will go out, but the RAM, the RAM has lights on it, and the RAM will stay lit up. And if I try hitting the power button to turn it on, it won't turn on. I have to press and hold the power button for quite a while, then the lights on the RAM will go off, and then I can press the power button and it will start back up. But for whatever reason, if I say sudo shutdown now, it will power down correctly. I don't know why. Apparently there are like multiple ways of shutting down a computer, because like you can do this, or you can do like systemctl power off or something like that to shut it down with systemd. So it might just be like shutting it off through the user interface, like that shuts it off in some slightly different way that doesn't work quite right, something like that. So I can't say that like this switch has been completely without any weirdness or whatever like that, but for the most part it's been like kind of incredibly smooth. So I've been very happy with it. And I think that's probably about it. I will just show you the game that sort of inspired me to do this little quick Godot fmod project to get brushed up on things. Okay, here it is. This is why I need to consolidate all of my games into one folder. So this is Pedro and Ordep's Space Adventure, which is a Flash game from the Boys Life magazine website from a while back, which is a Boy Scout magazine that I got despite not being a Boy Scout. But this is like honestly one of the best Flash games, I think. It is, I think you would call it like a twin stick shooter kind of thing. And it is pretty unforgiving. And despite it being like a very linear thing, and that the enemies always come out at the same times, always take the same paths and everything, it's able to, like, I would kind of say that it's like dynamic, but that's not really the right word for it. But it has lots of different phases and sort of settings that it goes through over the course of the game, because you'll get to these sections where like you're in an asteroid field kind of thing, where there are all these asteroids flying around, and you can like get gems out of them, which I don't even know what the gems are for. I've never beaten this game, despite having played it quite a bit, because it is pretty tough. But yeah, if you like this kind of game, I would highly recommend looking it up. It is online now. It wasn't for a while, but you can find it online. And it is a very good one. But yeah, it just came to mind recently for whatever reason. So I was playing it for a bit, and I thought, it might be kind of fun to make something kind of like this as just a little exercise for getting back into Godot and Fmod. Alright, I assume I cut out the past like 15 minutes of just playing this game. Actually, closer to 20 minutes. It's extremely good. If you like this kind of game at all, I would highly recommend looking it up and playing it yourself. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I just wanted to make this video to show off my new system, basically. Not that it's even a new system. It's the desktop I've been using for the past 5 years. But it feels new. Runs way better than Windows did. And yeah, I'm loving it. So yeah, if you're seeing this and you do audio stuff, and you have, if you're sick of Windows and are looking for an alternative, maybe take this as a bit of encouragement that, well, yes, like, I won't lie, like, there's a learning curve. But I will also say, I did make a video last October kind of giving you a fundamental setup for this, for getting Windows audio plugins installed, and getting low latency audio and everything like that set up. I did make a video about that a little while ago, which I think is a pretty decent starting point. And also, by the way, that is in Ubuntu, which there are plenty of issues with Ubuntu, but I still think for someone who's just starting out and is trying to get away from Windows, Ubuntu is a perfectly fine place to start. It has a lot of support, it has a huge user base, so it's like you can find information about basically anything you're going to run into, as opposed to something more niche. But I will say that Ubuntu is based on Debian. It works very, very similarly, and basically everything in that guide works the same in Debian, and some steps are even easier. Like getting video to work in Reaper, I think was like just a matter of installing a few packages and installing VLC or something like that, as opposed to a bit more of a convoluted process that I had to do in Ubuntu. So yeah, maybe just sort of take this as an encouragement to try it out. Don't just like wipe your computer and start from scratch with Linux, I would get a a ThinkPad, or you can find the ThinkCenter Tinies for really cheap online. Just get one of those and start tinkering around with Linux and get familiar with it, get audio stuff set up, and once you've kind of settled into it a bit, the switch is pretty easy, and after a certain point, doing anything in Windows will drive you crazy because its flaws just stand out to you so much more once you've gotten used to using something else. So yeah, maybe take this as an encouragement to try it out, and to know that, after installing 740 Windows plugins on here, like I only had, like 20 that didn't work. So you can get just about everything going. So yeah, I think that's about it. Thanks for watching.